Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be bringing you into the room shortly.
Frank, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, loud and clear.
Might have to put my head up. I think I need my name on. That's the new thing. I don't accept you. I don't need you. Testing. I still can't hear him. Testing. Frank, can you hear me?
Kathy, I can hear you.
Thank you, Dave. I'm almost home. We're in McCain almost.
Well, it's nice and sunny out here, so good travel weather.
Yes, yes. I'm not driving or anything.
Oh, good. That would be good.
No. Are you the only one on, Dave?
Michael, you're muted, but you're here.
Hi, Kathy. Chuck Zisk from Public Works is also on.
Okay.
Thank you, Chuck.
I'm here too. This is Renee. Welcome back to Erie County.
It's cold. I see snow on the ground.
At least you didn't wake up to it.
That's right. That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are streaming to YouTube and recording, just as a FYI.
freezer last week, the one that we didn't vote on. You need to give it back to me. This is a note. No Mike tonight, huh?
Oh, wait a minute.
Mike Gleason.
Oh, we got Big Kahuna. That's what.
We're voting on
Two on there, one is
the highlighted ones at the bottom, correct?
30204 East 26. One is 333 East 20. I think Charles, that is the one that said you wanted to put a building on it. You have it in front of you. And the other one.
Thanks, Josh. I'll do it.
Jimmy and Witherspoon are missing.
You're all set up. Thank you.
Hello, James.
You asked. You asked me to start my video. Jim's phone went down.
We're only 5 minutes late. Might as well get started here, huh?
More pockets, so somebody.
Yeah.
We'll get started, right? You're president.
Right. Guess we can get started on the caucus. If anybody has any questions, I sent, or I had Ms. Watson send a thing around, unless I was lied to when I made calls down to Washington DC. I was told that COVID money could not be used for security purposes. That's the case, then what we're doing with City Hall is going to deplete pretty much all the money that we have in any kind of savings account. I have a big problem with that. I don't, depends on the rest of the board, what your feelings are. I would, having that said, I think I'm all for passing the first 250 because we already spent it anyway. But I'd like to pull the second until we know for sure how that money can be used. And if in fact, the 1.7 million that we're going to be spending on this renovation is going to be found somehow with the help of COVID. And I open it up, again, I'm only speaking from the information I got from Mike Kelly's office when I put the call in.
I would say that I believe that the administration is going to be able to have an answer to this, but I would applaud Mr. Kelly for knowing something that the rest of those who are taking a look at the American Rescue Plan are not privy to. I have been on, as I said at the previous meeting, I attended the meeting with the National League of Cities. I attended another meeting with the Pennsylvania Municipal League, and the Treasury Department is going to be issuing rules on how that money can be spent. Those rules have not been issued yet unless they were somehow issued in the last, I don't know, 3 days. And I think that most people would then be aware of that. So I just find it
I'm not calling
funny.
anybody a liar. I'm just telling you what I was told.
No,
when I put
I'm not calling anybody a liar either, but I'm saying that for someone to say categorically that something can or cannot be covered by the American Rescue Plan is premature, because while there are broad guidelines, we don't know what the rules are going to say. But I don't want to speak for the mayor or Renee, who have really been tracking this and are confident that that this is an expenditure that will somehow be paid for either by the American Rescue Plan or possibly by using the monies that are coming to the city from those federal acts and then freeing up other money. So I don't want to speak for them, but I do
understand.
want to keep making it clear that the universal, we don't know how we will be able to use that money until the federal rulemaking is done and published in the Federal Register. I think that people, I'm familiar with federal rulemaking because I used to work at a place where we followed, when I was involved in consumer protection laws at the federal level, looking to see what the actual rules were going to be, say for the Fair Credit Reporting Act. That's how I learned about federal rulemaking. I don't think everybody realizes that just because the law is passed doesn't actually explain everything about how it's going to be implemented. So that's anyhow. So I don't want to take up time that Renee or the mayor could use to do a good explanation of.
I guess what I'm saying is that's $1 million bet. If they give it to us, then we'll have the money. But if they don't, then what? I'm not trying to,
And this is Joe, if I could talk for a minute. I feel very confident. I'm sorry.
I said, go ahead.
Okay. I'm very confident we're going to be able to get the money to pay for that. One thing that people are pretty sure of is that we're going to get money to replace money we lost over the last year and a half, even to the end of this year as that goes. As you know, we've lost millions of dollars in revenue because of COVID-19. So if nothing else, we can use a piece of that money to pay for this. So I'm very confident that we'll have and I'm really hoping that we can use some of that 79 million to pay. But if we can't specifically do that, then we can use it out of the 4 million or so we should get to replace money that we lost. So also, this is very safe in terms of, very important in terms of making City Hall safe for all of you and all employees, that we put this into effect. So I'd really like to move forward with this as quickly as possible, because we want to open up June 1st, ideally, but we have to have at least some of the security. We won't have all the security in place, but we'll have enough that we'll be comfortable opening as long as we move forward with getting the money as quickly as possible.
If I could add, I talked to Congressman Kelly's office today at 3 o'clock. Tim Butler was in Washington, D.C. And he did reiterate that the regulations, the restrictions have not come out yet. He said he would be surprised if we could not use the funding in this way. And that even if we cannot, this is coming out of our capital budget. He and both Kyle Hannon from Senator Casey's office both told me that they believe that we will definitely be able to use the funding for fire trucks, police cars, fire apparatus, aging technology infrastructure. So even if we're not for some reason able to use it for the reopening plan, the funding that, what we were going to pay for with the capital budget, we should be able to pay for out of the American Rescue Plan. So I don't know where the confusion was or is, but I've heard that now from both of their offices that, if nothing else, what they're being told is that the uses of the ARP funding are going to be much broader than they were for the COVID CARES Act funding.
I don't,
Mr. Keys?
if let me digress. First, I'd say, if you're saying we'll pay for it out of another budget, then you're talking about monies that were allocated for something else. And then wouldn't we have to weigh whether this is the most important thing to do with the capital budget as we look at capital projects? And number two, I think it's a great security plan, but I'd like to go on record saying that City Hall is the people's hall. And I think that it's being locked down too securely, where people don't have access to the people who are paid by the residents and who serve at the pleasure of the residents. And City Hall is supposed to be a resource office, and it's going to be severely limited with people not being able to go to whatever particular office that they need to go to. If I could digress for a minute, some of these things are needed. I'm surprised that they do not have them in 2021 in this building. But some of the other protocols, I think that there will be destructive for a city hall. If this was a private corporation, I'd say to the letter that they pretty much followed, what the going standards are. But this is a public building, and it's the People's Hall.
I'd like to respond to that. The courthouse is also a public building, and you go through security there. I want to read a headline that I found today. City Hall eyes tighter security. This was not the story that Kevin Flowers wrote last week. This was a story from December 12th, 2001, in which new security measures, 2001, these measures were recommended after a safety committee had met, including the police chief, the deputy police chief, Sergeant Tom Sankiewicz of the Erie Bomb Squad, and also the fire chief. So new security measures, including a metal detector and an officer checking government IDs, are needed to protect City Hall. They were needed prior to terrorist attacks 3 months ago, but they are needed even more now, said Erie Assistant Fire Chief Tom Lawson, a member of the committee that will recommend the changes. 2001. So 20 years later, we did not do that. There are other things that we have to be prepared for other than foreign terrorism. We have to think about domestic terrorism. This is not going to keep people from doing their business at City Hall. I also read a great story in the Grand Rapids Press from 2 years ago. I like to look at Erie and Grand Rapids because Grand Rapids is, it's a manufacturing town. It's close to a Great Lake, not quite on Lake Michigan. Has a lot of the kind of character that Erie has, a lot of, it's a faith-filled community. And when they did a security upgrade 2 years ago, they tied it into the Smart City initiative so that people would be able to do as much as possible online, and the website would be really easy to use. So there is a lot of reasons to think about this. It's it goes beyond, we're trying to limit access. We're actually going to be able to make it, as we already have during COVID, make it easier for people to do business with the city of Erie. The Mayor Savacchio supported this, but then a new mayor came in and it didn't get done. So I think when we have something that was identified more than 20 years ago as a need, of course, the cost rise. How many things have we put off doing in terms of infrastructure that we end up paying more for today? And this to me is an infrastructure issue. It's something that is not unusual. I went to Erie County Votech yesterday. Before I could get in the building, I had to, punch in or use the intercom. And I went into the vestibule, and then there was another security check before I was admitted to the conference room that I was going to. Even pre-COVID, I remember I went to Union City High School to interview somebody for a story. And before you could go into Union City High School, you had to produce your driver's license, and it made a copy. It scanned your driver's license before you were going in. So there's lots of security systems out there. And
That's
I
not
think
the issue at
I'm going
all
to
right
tell you
now.
again about Virginia Beach.
We don't need to hear about
City
Virginia
Hall.
Beach again. You told us that one last week.
Well,
Go ahead.
there could be other
I'm
people
sorry.
listening, Mr. President, who have to know.
Yes, dear. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'd like to
Are you
respond.
saying I am?
I said, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to wear my Kamala Harris hat, I guess. I would like to repeat the information about Virginia Beach, because we don't know if the people, the Erie residents who are on tonight were listening 2 weeks ago.
I'm sorry.
Virginia Beach City Hall was attacked by a disgruntled employee. 5 people were killed. How many mass shootings have we had in the last 4 weeks? That's it.
Again, I agree with you 100%. You're right on that, Liz. My question is finances. Is everybody aware that we're going to be spending $100,000 to $150,000 per year maintenance fee on the security system? Where's the money going to come from is what I'm asking. And I don't want to hear that we're going to go with the mayor and with Renee, and then when things blow up in our faces, they're going to come back to us and say, well, you voted for it, but I'm not voting for it. I'll tell you right now. If I knew what was there, if I knew that COVID money was money that we could use, Joe, I'm all with you. But I didn't make this up. I talked to Kelly's office yesterday, and I was told one thing. Renee, I know you're not lying either. You talked to him today, and you were told something else. If nobody down there knows, then how are we gonna know? That's my only question. And we are dealing with money for future generations there. So,
I want,
Mr. Keys?
as we keep comparing ourselves to the county courthouse, as we can keep comparing ourselves to the county courthouse, which is a good example, which they arguably have a whole lot more to protect than we do. Once I go through the metal detector there, I can go to any unrestricted place within the confines of the courthouse. So it's not a straight comparison. For those who don't know, I'm a security professional. I supervise security at the largest facility in the county. And so I am familiar with these protocols and what the systems do and do not do. I just don't believe that it's what has been written up is the best fit for City Hall. And I think that it needs to be replanned when you compare it to a private facility. That's not an apple to apples. Anytime you're a public facility, it comes with some sort of liability. For instance, you go to the vet stadium or to a stadium, which is still in a private facility, but everyone goes through metal detectors and certain things, but there'd be a certain level of security there. There'd be a certain, when you're dealing with the public, it's different. then when you're in a private facility where I work, you can't come in. You know what I mean? You do have to be escorted. You do, have to show your ID and get visitor badges, but that's a private facility. And I think the distinction needs to be made between a private facility and a public place. And City Hall is a public place. And we have to remember that even if all the security goes in, it's still the city's hall. That's all.
Before we go any further with this, anybody have any questions for Mr. Senate or Mr. Winger? I know you gave us a real good explanation of it last time we met, talking about the fees and the money to pay off debt. Anybody on board have a question for those guys? If not, we can excuse them. I'm sure they've got better things to do than sit and listen to this. Tim, Jay, I know it's entertaining. No
I guess,
questions?
thank you. I just want to point out a couple of changes to the ordinance from first reading. Obviously, we added the official ordinance number and the council number. We did clarify the name of certain bonds. We added a sentence in regard to sinking funds in regard to the taxable bonds that are listed there. We took out the section that dealt with the capital improvements in the general fund at the direction of city council. That's it. Those are the only changes to second reading. Oh, I'm sorry, we added Exhibit A, which Jay Wenger actually put together, and maybe I should defer to him on that point.
Okay, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Jim.
Great. So we're ready to move forward. We've produced a draft of the purchases. We've sent it to the verification agent, which is Zelenkowski Axelrod, a CPA firm. This requires a third-party verification, which they've also prepared their draft report. We have discussed this with BNY Mellon as your paying agent / trustee. We think we have everybody on board. It might take us another day or two to get everybody signed off, but we certainly are moving forward and toward the ability to execute the purchase of the Treasury securities to put into place the defeasance of the bonds that have been outlined in the ordinance. So I'm hopeful that by Monday at the latest, we will have all of this wrapped up.
Thank you. Any other questions for those guys? I think you're excused if you want to be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Have a nice
guys,
night.
Thank you. Okay. That being said, for the good of the board, there's 4 votes out there to pass this second ordinance for 650,000. I won't pull it, but I'm not voting for it. I'll let you know. So give me an eye, heads up, or whatever. If there's 4 out there, then we'll keep it on. If not, I'm going to pull it until we get information about the COVID. Comments, please.
Mr. President,
Mr. Winarski.
thank you. Just like Councilwoman Helen had mentioned, this was brought up 20 years ago. And I'm sure it was a little more feasible even then, but I think the longer we prolong taking care of City Hall, to the security of the employees, to the members of this council, that the sooner is better. And although it comes with a big price tag, from my understanding, if we do not get it through the relief money, that we can get it from the loss that we have due to COVID here in City Hall. So if we don't get it through the relief, once again, the Relief Act, then we have up to $4 million in losses we have from COVID that this will cover, or that will cover, and then some. I don't know, and this may be a question down the road also, that the 5-year fee on this, if that would still be included with that relief package. There again, it's still another question that we don't know yet. I don't know the ramifications if we, and I don't know if AJ or Mr. Mulvihill could answer this. If we hold off another 2 weeks or another 4 weeks, I mean, we're just kicking the can down the road that way too. I mean, this is well overdue and we knew it was going to come with a price tag. I don't know if we're getting the Cadillac of the security system or the Chevy Chevette of the security system. If we can spend more or if we can get a better deal, that I don't know. That was your job. And I know there's a lot of work and effort put into this. We just have to make up our mind as a council if we want to move forward with it. But if somebody would answer the question, if we delay this longer, are we delaying opening City Hall also because this definitely needs to be in place to open City Hall? I'm not sure that is.
I would say yes to that, Jim. We can't open City Hall without something in place like this.
Yes.
Mr. President,
Wilson.
thank you, sir. I guess I look at it from a more practical point of view. I look at the shootings and the killings, maybe on the street right now, but we have had several situations where we had to have police come in and escort people out. If they had came in with a handgun and stood at the mic, police couldn't stop them from shooting any one of us. It's too late then. My life is more important than $10 million. The only thing they're gonna say if I get shot and I die, boy, Mel was a nice guy. That don't help Mel at all. It's been all over the news. You don't come back from that. The question is, am I worth the cost that it will take to put a security in? I think I am. I think 6 colleagues are. I think our city clerk is. I think the administration, I think Teresa is. We're all on the podium. And most of these folks who's shooting folks can't shoot straight anyway. I'm for it, and I'm gonna vote yes, simply because we need protection. And if it never happens, thank God. But it's there if we need it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Spoon.
Mr. President?
Yeah, Dave.
Yes, I wanted to also say a few words about this. When I first joined council, it was 8 years ago, when my first term, you know, I was kind of amazed that it was so open, and there has been security discussions for years, you know, as Mr. Winarski had noted. But I think that this is not only going to protect those who work in City Hall, but also all the visitors. So it's going to really protect everybody. It's going to provide safety for everyone that enters that building. It's not going to prohibit anybody. But to me, I think everyone will feel safer. But if there are any changes that are needed, just like any system, there will be, no system is perfect. There's going to be something that could be tweaked, could be changed, could be made better. You know, as Mr. Keys mentioned, you know, there could be adjustments made. Maybe that occurs at a later date. No one's just going to put it in a system and then, you know, leave it there forever. It's going to be perfected. So I support this also, but knowing nothing's ever perfect, but I think it's definitely needed for City Hall.
Okay, that being said, I think it's evident that the will of the council is for it to go forward. So Lori, we will not pull that other ordinance, okay? Keep it on the docket and let it be voted on. Again, all the kudos I can give to Angelic and David and all those people that worked hard on this. It's a great, great program. I've got two concerns, money and money. If we can't afford it, then we shouldn't be driving it. And I'm hoping to God that you guys know what you're talking about, that we're gonna have the money, because we're draining our coffers if we don't. And taking 4 million to replace money that we lost doesn't get us any place ahead. It just fills the hole up again. That's what, one question I do have is about the security guards. Whose liability is it? Is it in the contract that whoever supplies those security guards would be liable if there's a problem with them? Or is the city the one that will be liable? Mr. Mayor, can you tell me that one? You're muted, by the way.
I'll defer to AJ. He knows the details.
If the security firm is insured and they're professionally trained, they have a GSA contract with the federal government. They carry liability insurance. There's
So the city
there's
will not be sued,
They can be both.
right?
They both can be sued.
We have
That's
no-
right. They're not our employees, right?
they are not our employees. No.
That's a big question.
Can I?
Michael?
Yeah, usually the way it works, both parties will be able to be sued. Of course, they will carry their own insurance if something happens. So I'm actually not a proponent of having a armed guard. If I was just throwing it out there, I would exchange the armed guard for 2 roving guards at the other rate, and we can put them in the building and outside the building, and they can walk the stairwells in the parking lot and do extra work on the ground that isn't included in what we're getting.
Hey, Jay, could you talk to Mike about that after a meeting or whenever?
Yeah, I'd be happy.
Something that we do?
I'd be happy to discuss the security plan in more detail with Mike or with anyone on council.
Sure. No, you did a great job. Showing us everything. Like I told you, my principal objection is money. That's the only objection, because you guys did one heck of a job. If we don't have anything else.
I just wanted to say one more
Liz,
thing
go ahead.
about the money. And I think that Renee could, or AJ could verify this, but one of the things that struck me was that I believe the equipment is being purchased through the CoStars program, which is the Pennsylvania GSA's cooperative buying program. So I think we're getting the best deal on the prices. It's sort of like, buying in bulk when you do that. I don't know all the details of CoStars, but that jumped out at me because I think that's the language that I hear them speaking at the COG meeting. So I just want people to know it's not like we're going out there and, paying the most expensive thing. We're getting a good deal on the price, I think.
Thank you.
Liz,
It's not- it's
Liz,
never
you're
been a problem.
correct.
Pardon me?
This is Dave Mulville. Liz, you're correct. It is a CoStars with the DES
Right.
contract.
Yeah, nobody's taking any shots at what you guys put together. It's a beautiful program. Our concern, at least my major concern, is the finances. And hopefully, I'm gonna be wrong, and the mayor and fifth floor will be correct on that. And we'll be able to get all that money from COVID, and you can laugh at me. But don't be pointing fingers at me if it doesn't happen.
Ed,
That being
Mr.
said,
President,
yes, Mr. Spoon.
let the record show, sir, that nobody's going to laugh at you. Your statements, your concern are legitimate, the same as Councilman Keyes. It's legitimate. That's why we have 7 folks here to agree to disagree. And that's the way it is. You made me think about some things, but I voted the other way simply because of my belief. So no, you are 110% right. Nobody's going to point fingers, and we shouldn't point fingers when a vote go one way or the other. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Witherspoon. I appreciate those words. Can we say good night and then take 2 minutes and start the regular meeting?
Good night. I'll see you in my dreams.
7:36, maybe we'll go around. 2 minute break.
You know, the old clerk used to come back and refresh the bar.
That whole one over there that Kathy's not drinking.
Hey, Jim, did you want to do an interview? Pardon? I would if we had time. We have to.
Call to order. Three.
Roll call for the city council meeting of Wednesday, April 21st, 2021 at 7:30 PM. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Allen, Brennan, Mr. Keys, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Spoon. Please
I guess
stand.
we'll stand Reverend Keys for this quick prayer, and then we'll do the pledge.
Dear Heavenly Father, We just thank you for this time, and we thank you for assembling this council. We just ask that you add your wisdom to our wisdom, that we make good decisions for the city. We just ask that you uplift our city as things open up, that we continue to be safe, and that things continue to go well. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to accept the minutes from the April 7th, 2021 City Council meeting and bills for payment on April 23rd and April 30th. Ms. Allen, Mr. Brennan, Keys, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, and Mr. Brzezinski. I have two repository presentations today answering questions. The first one is from Cheryl Lepkowski. She's trying to purchase a vacant lot on East 37th Street. Dear Council, my sister and I would very much like to purchase property known as the Ind Homesite Subdivision 106. It's an irregular lot on East 37th Street. The reason we are purchasing this lot is that it's connected to the property of my mother's house. My family and I spent a lot of time with my mother. Our intent is to extend her property with this purchase. Currently, many people are using it as a dumping ground, and we would like to clean this up. Hopefully, this will make the area more aesthetic to others and will help keep away unwanted pests and rodents. While cleaning out the lot, I would still like to maintain some of the natural habitat. We have a sentimental attachment to this lot as we grew up in the area. The land used to belong to our grandmother, and we would very much like to have it back in the family. This would mean a lot to us. At this time, we don't have any plans to build on the lot. If we do have an interest to build in the future, we will check and follow all city building code requirements before doing so. I live in the city and have paid the taxes at 1404 East 33rd Street since 1985. I hope you will kindly approve our purchase of the lot. Please feel free to contact me with any questions.
Carol's on the line.
Okay. Do you want to ask her anything?
How do I unmute?
Cheryl, you're unmuted. I suggest you turn your television down.
Oh, we're doing that now. Thank you.
Cheryl,
My
do you have
sister and I
anything-
are present.
Do you have anything more to add?
Do you have anything more to add? Just that it's been in the family and we would like to extend the lot. And I mean, it pretty much said it in the letter. If you have any questions, we'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
I have a
This is all
question.
new to us.
Mr.
So
Keys
is
has
the
a
area
question.
still covered with mostly brush on that lot? I didn't actually go measure out what part would be the lot that you're acquiring.
Hard to hear. It's mostly like woods and brush and stuff, but people, if you walk in it, they're dumping all kinds of stuff, appliances, barrels, mattresses in there. Just if you would walk in there, there's a lot of stuff that people are starting to dump in there.
So would you fence it off in order to deter people from continuing to dump on the site?
A fence.
I'm sorry, what was it?
A fence. I don't think we'd put a fence around it, but if the people around town that would be to dump their items know that it has owners to it. We're hoping that they will not dump there anymore.
And the more you clean it up, it'd be more cleared out a little bit so that you could tell when people would be going in to dump. You know, right now it's pretty much hidden with everything there. So you would be, if you clear it out, you're going to be able to see, you know, who's going in there and dumping.
Okay, well, I wish you well. I actually grew up around the corner from your grandmother and really familiar with that area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. He said he grew.
Cheryl, we don't vote today, we just answer the questions. Next week, council will vote, or next meeting. The next questionnaire answer is from Richard Fleming regarding property at 634 East 21st Street. Muted?
No, you're on mute.
I'm writing in regards of the purchase of the property located at 634 East 21st Street. The property is vacant and has no structure. My plans are intend to use the property for my personal use. I have a grandmother who stays 2 houses away from the property, and it would be nice to fence it in and plant flowers. I would like to build on it also, but for now I'd like to just paint it and make the necessary upkeep on the property. The condition of the property is in disarray and needs to be mowed and cleaned of all debris. I live 2 blocks from the property and my grandmother stays 2 houses from it, so I'll always be in the vicinity of the property. How will you provide for the maintenance of the property, mowing, snow removal, rubbish, board and seal, windows, doors, etc.? Being a homeowner myself, I have the tools to maintain the lot, such as a mower, snow blower, and all the other equipment needed for keeping it up to code. When I build on it, I will keep everything within the code of the City of Erie ordinance. Okay, we have another one from Lance Beard. This is regarding property on East 17th and June Street. It's on East 17th, lots 4 and 5. This letter is submitted in support of my interest in purchasing a parcel from Erie County Repository for Unsold Properties. I'm interested in this property. It's located adjacent to the parcel that I purchased through the judicial sale in February 2021. Both of these parcels have a street status of landlocked, as indicated in their parcel profiles viewed on Erie County's Property Tax Records webpage. I understand the term landlocked to mean that a parcel is completely surrounded by private property such that access from a public street is not possible without crossing a neighbor's property, thus requiring permission from the neighboring landowner. Upon inquiring with Jake Welsh of the City Zoning Office, I learned these parcels are not technically landlocked since they border East 17th Street. He explained that even though this part of East 17th is not paved, cleared, or even visibly distinguishable, it still provides legal public access. These parcels are practically landlocked since vehicular access would require locating the borders of the street, cutting down trees that have grown up, and driving off-road. Since the parcel that I hope to buy from the repository is in the same situation as this regard as the neighboring parcel that I just purchased, and since Jake Walsh states they are zoned M1 light industrial, I hope to combine them for a larger area for future value appreciation. Property is vacant and has no structures. I plan to leave the property in as-is condition. I intend to hold the property for future value appreciation in combination with the neighboring property that I bought. The property is unimproved, in an unimproved area grown over with trees and bushes. I do not live near the property. I live in Naples, Florida. I am willing and able to travel and visit. I will provide maintenance of the unimproved vacant condition would be removal of rubbish, illegally dumped waste, which I anticipate to be minimal considering the difficulty of vehicular access. I plan to handle this responsibility personally by visiting and inspecting occasionally and as needed. I am willing to handle maintenance needs of which I become aware by employee of local hired services as appropriate. Okay, that should come down next week. This takes us to the public comment section. I'd ask the public to please state their name and their address clearly. You have 5 minutes.
Andrea Stelmack.
Good evening. Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. I'm coming to council tonight to discuss a safety issue that I'm having in my own neighborhood. As I tuned into the agenda tonight, I saw that we were discussing safety concerns at City Hall, and in my own neighborhood, I'm having a problem with a neighbor of mine, and I'm coming to City Council because I feel like I've exhausted, along with my neighbors, every other opportunity to try to do the right thing. So this problematic neighbor, just this Friday, their house was raided and 2 people were arrested. And as I understand, one of the individuals arrested was arrested for manufacturing methamphetamine and distribution. And me and my neighbors have all called Pennsylvania State Police, Erie City Police, the Vice Unit, the Neighborhood Action Team, Office of Children and Youth, and we are beyond frustrated. It has become a full-time job to try to keep ourselves safe, and the constant traffic over here, I'm exhausted. My neighbors are mostly elderly, and also I live within 1,000 feet of a school and a church. It's like devastating to me. I live above my mother, and she's retired. And this has just been like terrorizing. I have 4 BB shots in my front window right now. You can drive by and look. My address is 2313 Haybarger Avenue. You can see it from the street. It's terrifying. I have 3 different incident reports for these shots in my window. And as I stated, there was a raid on Friday at the property, which is 1710 West 24th Street. It's right down from Blessed Sacrament. So I'm coming to City Council with a very sincere request to please look into this. Mayor Schember, I noticed that you recently discussed the safety of all citizens and a renewed commitment to safety. And I'm scared, I'm terrified, and this is not how I want to live my life. I bought security cameras so I could monitor the situation over there. And as I stated, I've been in contact with several different departments of law enforcement, as have my neighbors. And some are more cooperative than others. And I understand as a private citizen, you can't, the police can't really tell me what's going on. But what's happened is basically my neighbors and I have played detective for the last 2 years as this issue has just grown into this monstrous hydra across the street. And to my knowledge, at this very moment, the property owner has not been arrested. And I was told that through one department that there was district justice warrants. And so we had to wait till Monday to pick him up. And then when he came back home, because he's been sneaking back home since Friday, I've called, my neighbors have called, and no, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. So I'm trying to make you aware. I was going to send you a certified letter to City Council and a certified letter to you, Mayor Joe Schember. I really need some help. I don't know what's going on over there, and it's alarming. There's kids that walk to school. I walk my dog there every day. Again, the problematic place is 1710 West 24th Street, and the homeowner in question is named Michael Curry. He goes by Scotty. That's his street name. And my address is 2313 Haybarger Avenue. So, thank you for listening.
Gail Van Atta.
Gail? Hello?
Yes.
There you are, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Fire away.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, well, my appearance here tonight is regarding a public safety issue. I've lived in a fairly quiet, nice neighborhood now for years, since I was a kid. And the past 2 years, however,
What's your name and address,
it's been
Liz?
kind of nightmarish. We are dealing with a homeowner that's created a public nuisance. There seems to be every indication that drugs are being manufactured and sold out of this house, along with noise issues, constant streams of traffic all hours of the day and night. There's been domestic disputes that spill out into the yard. They burn in the middle of the night. I don't know what they burn, but it flashes and explodes. And the situation's escalated into verbal arguments, threats. A neighbor's been tased. Most recently, my front window on 3 different occasions is now sporting 4 bullet holes.
Dale, did we get your address?
Eating pellet shots. Pardon?
Did we get your address?
I beg your pardon?
Your address.
2313 Haybarger Avenue. Now, the neighbors have collectively documented and called the police on numerous occasions to report all of the above, including presence of, there's noxious smoke that billows out of an exhaust pipe about every 2 weeks. And then it's followed by a steady stream of traffic all day, all night, riding around, 5-minute stops, and then back later. I also wanted to note that this house is this house is within a block of Blessed Sacrament School. There has been a police presence. Recently, there were 2 people arrested at this house. However, the homeowner wasn't there. He has left. He leaves the property. He left the property and he returns several times a day and night. I don't know what can be done about him. My concerns are for my safety and my home and my neighbors, the kids that are around here, people that are living in close proximity to this house. What if it explodes? You know, it's coming down to the point where we're unable to continue to live and enjoy our own lives and houses. For 2 years, we've been documenting this activity, and we've contacted the Erie Police Department, Vice, Neighborhood Action, OCY, Pennsylvania State Police. We've filed nuisance complaints with the District Justice, and there has been a police presence that occurs, but doesn't seem to be any consequence for this homeowner for his illegal actions. And we've been told, keep calling, keep complaining. If you see something, say something. We've all invested in security cameras. We've logged activity, plate numbers, et cetera, and it's become almost a full-time job. And we were warned, just wait until this summer if you think it's bad now. So I guess I have concerns and questions about what else can we do to resolve the situation? The officers have been helpful, some more than others. Some I think have expressed a feeling that maybe we're overreacting to the situation and we're just, nosy neighbors with nothing to do, but that's not the case. My concerns are real. There's 4 real bullet holes in my window. And I guess I'm just looking for some advice and answers on who to look for assistance, what to do from here. Our neighbors did request a meeting with you, Mayor Schember. That has yet to be scheduled. We'd appreciate any further suggestions from yourself or for the Erie Council members as to what to do from here on. Because although this is a private neighborhood situation, it's a public safety issue. It's becoming a little alarming. So if anybody has any better ideas or somewhere else that we could go to, or I don't know, affect some further action, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I have an SZ.
Hello. You're muted, SZ.
I registered to attend the Zoom. I don't need to speak. Thank you, though, for calling on me.
Thank you. Frank? All done? Lori, that's it. Thank you, folks.
Ordinance of final passage. Council file number 16216, official file ordinance 21-2021. An ordinance in accordance with the 2021 City of Erie budget, the sum of $250,000 is appropriated from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue. This amount will be used by the City of Erie Capital Fund for expenses related to the City Hall security project. Sponsored by Mr. Witherspoon, seconded by Mrs. Shaw. The Council Bill 16216, and now known as official file ordinance number 21-2021, be finally passed by City Council. Ms. Allen, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Keys, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brzezinski. City Council pass official file ordinance 21-2021 by yeas 7, nays 0. Council file number 16217, official file ordinance 22-2021. An ordinance amending the quality of life ticketing ordinance to expand the definition of fines for illegal burning. Sponsored by Ms. Allen, seconded by Mrs. Shaw. The council file ordinance bill number 16217, and now known as official file ordinance 22-2021, be finally passed by City Council. Ms. Allen, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Keys, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brzezinski. City Council pass official file ordinance 22-2021 by yeas 6, nays 1. Council file number 16218, official file ordinance 23-2021, an ordinance amending the 2015 International Fire Code sections 307.1.1, prohibited open burning, and 307.5, attendance. Sponsored by Mrs. Shaw, seconded by Ms. Allen. The council file ordinance bill number 16218, and now known as official file ordinance number 23-2021, be finally passed by City Council. Ms. Allen, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Keys, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brzezinski. City Council pass official file ordinance 23-2021 by yeas 7, nays 0. Council file number 16219, official file ordinance 24-2021. An ordinance for the purposes of authorizing the use of water lease funds to refund and defease the City of Erie's general obligation bonds series of 2011, general obligation bonds series of 2012, and a portion of the tax exempt general obligation bonds series of 1998B, tax exempt general obligation bonds series of 2001C, general obligation bonds, federally taxable Series A of 2015, general obligation bonds Series B of 2015, general obligation notes, federally taxable Series A of 2017, general obligation notes Series B of 2017, federally taxable general obligation notes Series A of 2019, and general obligation notes Series B of 2019, and creating sinking funds for the payment of debt service for the general obligation bonds, federally taxable Series A of 2015, general obligation notes, federally taxable Series A of 2017, and federally taxable general obligation notes Series A of 2019. Sponsored by Mrs. Shaw, seconded by Ms. Al. The council bill number 16219, and now known as official file ordinance 24-2021, be finally passed by City Council. Ms. Allen, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Keys, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brzezinski. City Council pass official file ordinance 24-2021 by yeas 7, nays 0. Ordinances for first reading. Council file number 16220. An ordinance appropriating the sum of $2,299 of program income generated through the home program for the following home M20 projects. Sponsored by Mrs. Shaw, seconded by Ms. Allen. The council file ordinance number 16220, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by city council. Ms. Allen, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Keys, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brzezinski. City council read and adopt council file ordinance number 16220 by yeas 7, nays 0 on first reading. Council file number 221, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $8,818.72 of program income generated through the Community Development Block Grant for the following CDBG CD19 projects. Sponsored by Mrs. Shaw, seconded by Ms. Allen, the council file ordinance number 16221, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by city council. Ms. Allen, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Keys, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brzezinski. City council read and adopt council file ordinance number 16221 by yeas 7, nays 0 on first reading. Council file number 16222, an ordinance with the 2021 City of Erie budget, the sum of $400,000 is appropriated from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue. This amount will be used by the City of Erie Capital Fund for expenses related to the City Hall security project. Sponsored by Mr. Witherspoon, seconded by Mrs. Shaw. The council file ordinance number 16222, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by city council. Ms. Allen, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Keys, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brzezinski.
No.
City council read and adopt council file ordinance number 16222 by yeas 6, nays 1 on first reading. Council file number 16223, an ordinance with the 2021 City of Erie budget, the sum of $265,000 is appropriated from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue. This amount will be used by the City of Erie Capital Fund for expenses related to the City Hall security project. Sponsored by Mr. Witherspoon, seconded by Mrs. Shaw. The council file ordinance number 16223, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by city council. Ms. Allen, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Keys, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Keys? Is he a yes?
Mr. Keys is a no.
Mr. Keys is a no. Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brzezinski.
No.
City
Once
council,
again, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lori, I'm sorry.
City council read and adopt council file ordinance 16223 by yeas 5, nays 2 on first reading.
Once again, my no votes on those last two were not because of the security system, but the unknown of the ability to pay for it. We'll find out more as we go on. Thank you.
Mr. President, this takes us to new business.
President,
Yes, Mr.
move the balance.
Move the balance. We need a second.
Second,
Mr. Witherspoon seconds it. Any separations? We are hiring 6 policemen, but that's for the good.
Moving the balance of the agenda. Mr. Allen, or Mrs. Allen, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Shaw, Narski, Mr. Witherspoon, and Mr. Brzezinski. Motion passes. Yea 7, nay 0.
Hopefully when City Hall opens, we'll have those policemen here in front of it.
This takes us to committee reports.
Committee reports, we'll begin with Ms. Allen. You're muted, Liz.
Yeah, I'm ready. I just had to find my notes. So there was a letter to the editor in Sunday's paper that claimed the legislation to allow municipal police departments in Pennsylvania to use radar for speed enforcement is nothing more than a money grab through fines. And I wanted to let anyone who's listening know that information is incorrect. The legislation that has been proposed for Pennsylvania includes safeguards that is limits on how much of the fine can go toward municipal budgets. The Pennsylvania Municipal League backs this legislation, so does Chief Dan Spizzarni. And I've become a proponent because as a pedestrian and bicyclist throughout the city, I've seen firsthand the dangers that speeders pose to pedestrians, cyclists, and to other motorists. PennDOT promises that changes to the Bayfront Parkway are being made to improve safety, but even before that project takes off, we could improve safety on the parkway, the connector, and throughout the city if our police had the proper tools to enforce speed limits. In addition, the legislation being considered at the state level would require a city enabling ordinance. So I just want to let people know Pennsylvania is the only state. 49 states allow municipal police to use radar, and we're the only ones that don't allow that. In the past week and a half, I have attended the Erie Redevelopment Authority meeting, the Blighted Property Review Committee meeting, the Erie Land Bank meeting. These various groups are working collaboratively to go beyond cleaning up blight to figure out how to try and get housing back to being habitable and occupied by people who can afford, who can buy affordable housing and stay there as homeowners. There are always some odd cases, and one is that Blighted Property Review Committee is dealing with a property that was purchased by a woman from Staten Island, I believe, through a quitclaim deed. She thought she was getting a good deal, but the property needs extensive repairs and has been declared blighted. And I have suggested that for the Blighted Property Review Committee, that if we could get a snapshot of what types of properties end up on the blight list, that would be really helpful. I think there's an assumption that maybe a lot of it is, absentee landlords, or we just don't know. Sometimes it is absentee landlords, or sometimes it's an absentee owner, like a woman in Staten Island. But oddly enough, there's a lot of, and I've said this before, there are houses that end up being declared blighted. The owners have died, the properties have passed to the heirs, and the heirs just end up neglecting the houses. There's nobody living in there. They're vacant. They get mold. The taxes aren't paid. The utilities end up being shut off. So I think as we get a better picture of who, kind of the demographics, the data of how these properties end up becoming blighted, it helps our planning department that's working on a number of housing initiatives to figure out, what the best path forward is. Going to the land bank meeting was good. Land Bank Redevelopment Authority, both working on longer range work plans. And I saw a story that said that the Pittsburgh Land Bank has been in existence longer than the City of Erie Land Bank. And I think until this year had never actually been able to pass a house along so someone could buy it and live in it again. And we're farther ahead than that. Land banks are complicated. Pennsylvania is still learning how, what the ability of land banks are to be able to help address a lot of different issues from blight to affordable housing, but the Erie Land Bank seems to be on the right path for that. I attended the dedication of the alley behind WICU to honor the Lake Erie Draft Chow, and my colleague Jim Winarski was also there. It was a really moving event. And now that we have suggested language from David Brennan on how to bring street renamings before council, I'm going to be doing one at the next meeting, a recommendation for the longtime owner of Farrell Superette in the R West Bayfront neighborhood. I also met with Nika and Esteri Carpenter and Carl Anderson to talk about a resolution honoring Erie's Asian Pacific American community for next month, and to talk about the safeguards that are in place or are being discussed to make sure that people from that community are not targets of hate crimes. We don't have any indication that has happened in Erie. The people we've talked to have said Erie's a very welcoming community, but we want to be able to acknowledge what they contribute to our community. One last thing. I've talked about the infrastructure, the proposal for a national infrastructure bank. And the Jefferson Society is going to do a digital program on this tomorrow with those experts that I've mentioned that I've been on Zoom calls with. I thought it was easier to be able to let as many people as possible hear about this bipartisan proposal rather than having me regurgitate what I've learned in those Zoom calls. So if anybody's interested, tune into the Jefferson tomorrow at 4 o'clock to hear these economists and historians talk about the possible power and benefits of an infrastructure bank to start, rebuilding infrastructure in our city and elsewhere. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Owen, and thank you for reminding me that caucus is open up on TV. Otherwise, I wouldn't have tried to cut you short on that. Thanks for the information from, was that Virginia, you said? Moving right along, Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had two items. One, I attended the Erie Parking Authority meeting on the 13th. Just a couple items to review there. Revenues are down as can be expected. One item that was brought up is that the Parking Authority was hoping to, as development projects occur in the city, they're hoping to be involved at, kind of a seat at the table so they could assist where they can, since parking's involved in a lot of our projects and roadways, etc. They reported also that the parking ramp at 5th and Peach that's being built by EDDC, they continue to assist in that, not planning, but some of the different aspects of it, assisting in any way they can. There was one item that was really interesting brought up at the Parking Authority meeting is body cameras. They're looking at for their patrol staff. They've talked to the Erie Police Department about the operation cost and about saving the videos. So they're just had that discussion, and they're going to explore it further. And lastly, for the Parking Authority, the municipal services agreement. The city is still will be meeting with departments to get that further input in order to prepare for the meeting with the Parking Authority. But that is still out there being reviewed and discussed. I attended the event for the Erie County Redevelopment Authority for the property at 14th and Peach, the former Quinn T site. That's the 4-acre property. As some may or may not know, there's been environmental issues there for years. I know there's been past discussion, but now they just closed on the property and they're looking at studying the property and seeing what, of course, cleaning it up first, demoing and so forth, but then studying the property and see what would be a appropriate fit. There's been several discussions about what could go there, but nothing's, it's still up in the air as what could happen. But the important part is they have control of the property. They're going to clean it up. It was an environmental hazard before, and now it's something that will be hopefully something that's good for the city and, of course, for the residential neighborhood nearby. And maybe even a green space might be appropriate. So I think we'll find out more, and I'm sure it'll be I know it'll be an improvement from what's there now. That's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Ms. Shaw. You're muted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I attended the Erie Water Authority meeting, and there's going to be a huge project, something to do with the water filtration. And I was so proud of all of the people on the board who really said that they are going to make sure that people who are working on this project are people of color and so forth, that even the companies that are in on this project, they also are going to do that as well. There's like a huge commitment for hiring good wages and a diverse people in background. So that's just an awesome and amazing thing. And our Erie water system is really going to shine as they continue to do so nationally. I attended the zoning meeting and the Asian Pacific American talk with Liz Allen that Mika Masteri Carpenter hosted, which was a good thing to address the feelings and the action statements that we had. And I really think that was a positive meeting, as well as Michael Outlaw's one on SPCP that I also attended with Liz Allen. And our program is getting national attention, and it's something to be proud of here in Erie. The CDBG monies will be headed in the right direction for the groups that need it, and that's a great thing. And I am happy to have sponsored Alex Spoon going onto the HRC advisory board, as they needed members to complement their board to get things restarted and rejuvenated there. There have been some cleanups going on. Our West neighborhood watch group had one this past weekend, our West Bayfront. And I think there's one tomorrow from 10 to 1 that starts forming at the plaza with the IRG people. That's going to be a big cleanup. And there's some more that are also going on. I am thankful for Father Jerry Priscaro. He has another neighborhood watch meeting tomorrow, and he has provided social distancing in the basement of St. Anne's Church. And it's always helpful to the neighbors to meet with the police and gather information and move forward. When I get emails from Sister Pat Lupo, at the end of her emails, she has, "The earth is calling. Are we listening?" And that's really, really, really been hitting home to me as I travel beyond our city, as I go through our city. You know, so many things are going up and that, but we really need to balance, and balance is so important. And we cannot just put nature aside and the animals and things. We need to make sure that we take care of our earth. So if you can't participate in a cleanup, perhaps you can do one on your own around your own block and neighborhood, and that would be much appreciative. Kudos to the Erie Arts and Culture Run Executive Director Patrick Fisher and his amazing team. They had presentations going on this past week every day, and people can go on their site and re-watch or watch them if they haven't already. They had a really great one that was just really connected with me about the conflict kitchen that was in the Pittsburgh area, and how people come together and discuss. But they no longer have that specific one, but just really impressed with Erie Arts and Culture's needs that are being met through their video presentations and their artwork around the city. And thanks also to the Jefferson Society, who also has been having video viral presentations as well. So Kathy Schaaf signing off. The earth is calling. Are we listening?
Thank you, Ms. Kathy. Mr. Winarski, can you top that?
I am unmuted. Although this evening, between the water lease money that was used to pay down the debt, I mean, that was the core reason that the administration and the majority of council had pushed for that. So it did go through. We got nearly half our debt I paid down this evening. And with that being said, we still have more financial big decisions left. We still have the balance of that water lease money, and actually also the 79 million that we're going to get from the rescue plan, American Rescue Plan. That we definitely have to be as smart as we possibly can again, be very transparent on how that money is used and how it can benefit the city as a whole. I do believe we used some of that water lease money to help offset our losses already for 2020 to the tune of I think we used like 3.5 million or 3 million for our losses from 2020. That helped with our 2021 budget. So I believe we should also get reimbursed for that. But we have still a lot of, and although the security systems for the folks that weren't here for the caucus meeting, we had some pretty heavy conversation about investing $1 million in the safety of City Hall, both for the employees, the visitors, council, the administration. And although it comes with a hefty price tag, and not everybody agreed that maybe we were financially ready to spend that kind of money, probably sooner is probably better than later. City Hall's been closed now too long. If this is part of the stepping stone that helps get it back open like it should be, that's why I did vote for it, as well as the safety of both the citizens and the employees here. Other than that, that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Witherspoon?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm excited because we received approval from the city as well as Department of Health to put the hoops back up in the parks. And of course, at the league that I'm involved with, at the Bayfront as well as on East 19th Street. We've had registration open for maybe 2 weeks, and thus far we have 136 registered in that short period of time. Registration will be open until the middle of May. Also, I've met with the West Bayfront group along with Pat Fisher and Ann from Gannon. They are working on a project at the Bayfront Park. The project includes painting the basketball court. We have the 2 artists that did the Luther Manis mural. And we're bringing in the community to get their thoughts and ideas on what it should look like. And the reason we're doing that is because we want them to take ownership of the courts. Also, there will be portraits of maybe 4 individuals, one being Essie Hollis, who grew up on the West Side, played ball at Strong Vincent, became a pro over in Europe. Joe Blanks, who played basketball in our high school system, and he played ball for Gannon University and grew up on the Lower West Side. Also, the late Alan Poole, who worked at the King Center, his photo will be up there as well. And finally, Mickey Ackerson, who grew up on the West Side and was an outstanding basketball player as well. Their pictures would be on a large poster sitting on top of the fence, so it's not blocking the view of the game. Also in the plans, because the Negro League played many of their games down at the Bayfront Park, they're going to work on that and put pictures of those players who played in the league, like Mr. Ernie Wright, for one, Sam Jethro, and of course, many others. So Bayfront Park is going to be a sight to see, and we're waiting for that to happen. On 19th Street, we're just going to put the hoops back up. We're going to work on the courts. It got a lot of cracks that we want to fix, and we'll just paint over that, and we'll be ready to go. But Pat Fisher has put together a super program for the West Side, and I'm proud to see that happen. Also, we can't forget Candace Battles. She runs the show down on the West Side, and she'll tell you that herself. When we start the games up at 19th Street and Bayfront, we put together myself and a young lady named Nikki Williams, who's from Erie, but lives in Pittsburgh. She's my consultant, and she put together a COVID protocol. And all coaches must read this protocol to the kids before every game. And he has to sign that, hand that over to me, just in case a Dave Mulvihill or someone from the county just stop by and want to see it. We'll have it there at the table. Also, we plan to have hand sanitizers. When a substitute comes off the court, he has to go to the scores table, squirt his hands, and go to the bench. And after the game, no one comes back to the bench to play the next game, because we're going to spray the bench, wipe that down as well. We will also periodically wipe the ball off. And so, we can control outside the players. We know we can't control 100 people who don't wear their masks, etc. That's tough to do outside. So I've asked Dave if we can put several signs up where the bleachers are and around the fence, showing a mask, writing distance, and hopefully that will help us. We know it's going to be a tough job to do, and you don't want to antagonize anyone, especially the young ones these days, 13 to 16 and over, because you don't know what they are strapped with. So we can say it very nicely. If they don't, we leave them alone, and I worry about my players at that point. I have a meeting coming up next week with Mike Fraley, Housing Authority, and I will be in touch with Mr. Keys and try to get a date where we can set up and talk about the Quebec police at the Housing Authority, because I know Mr. Keys is concerned about that. So I want him to be able to hear what Mike is doing at the Housing Authority. So I'll get with you, Councilman Keys, but my meeting next week is on a totally different issue. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Witherspoon. Play ball.
Hello.
Smile on your face. Mr. Vice President, Mr. Keys. You're muted still. Want me to tell him what you
Yeah,
want
I
to
am
say?
muted again.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
All right.
I don't have a report today. I just have attended online a lot of the meetings that other people have had, have spoke about. And so I'm staying abreast of what's going on in our city and continue to do my best analysis and stay involved.
Thank you, Mr. Keys. I have a little bit, tomorrow, I, as well as Mr. Keys, were invited to Mill Creek Mall to honor the Cathedral Prep state champions. As soon as we get this place open, we have to have the Erie High basketball team here. They were district champions. They were district champions and they were a good team. Wouldn't hurt us to have the Villa girls here either. They only had one loss. They were district champions. So we're looking forward to getting this place open, Mr. Mayor. And with that, let's go. Therese, you have anything for us, Ms. Stankiewicz?
No, I don't have anything today.
Okay, thank you for being here. Mr. Betza?
I don't have anything to add tonight.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, you're here, so I don't know if Renee is here or not. Renee, are you still here?
Renee comes in the to the morning meeting. I come to the evening. So
Right. I just didn't know if she was still here.
and we usually both watch the other meeting we're not at anyway. But
You're on.
yes, thank you very much. First of all, I just wanted to say we did send an email today to the two speakers from earlier, Andrea and Gail, to meet with them on May 5th at 1:30 to talk about the issues they're having. So we are going to deal with that. Also, look forward to tomorrow's council briefing at 1 o'clock. I hope most, if not all of you, can be there, and we always have a good conversation and a lot of information gets exchanged. The topics for tomorrow's press conference, just to let you know in advance, there's 5 items, and it's all focused on making Erie's neighborhoods more welcoming and vibrant, by eliminating crime and things like that. But first, we're going to read a proclamation that declares tomorrow Earth Day in Erie. It's Earth Day internationally. Second, there'll be an update on sustainability initiatives that we're working on through city operations. Third, we'll talk about a program called Pick Up Pennsylvania that we're involved with. Fourth, we'll update what's going on with the glass recycling, and that's very, very exciting what's going on there. And then we'll be talking about a national prescription drug take back that we're participating in this weekend at City Hall. The Erie Police are involved with that. So those are the topics for tomorrow's press conference. I think Kathy mentioned the neighborhood watch meeting, Father Jerry Pescaro in the East Side, and actually Kathy Rosdick is speaking at that. I think she's the main presenter, and I will be at that as well. Really looking forward to that conversation. I want to thank you for approving the security for City Hall. I know we still have another vote on 2 of the 3, but it's really a way I believe we're going to keep people safe, both people coming in and our employees. And Ed, I want you to know, if anything goes wrong with this money-wise, I will take the blame because I'm the one pushing for this. I believe in it. And I believe there's very little chance we're going to have a financial problem because of this.
We're a team, boss. No problem. I just learned about the money.
The last thing I wanted to talk about is basically thank you for approving 7-0 the use of the waterworks money, the balance that we have left to pay down debt, the 79 million. That's very positive and it's transformational for the city's economy. we still have work to do. Absolutely. We need to start bringing more people and more jobs back to Erie because we've been losing jobs since the late 1970s. We've lost 40,000 people from Erie. I mean, that's a lot of revenue gone. We want to make Erie a place where people want to come back, where employers want to locate. So we will keep working on that. I just want to tell you that everything we've done in the last couple of years here that you have all been a part of has reduced our expenses over the next 20 years by about $158 million. That's about $9 million a year less in expenses that we have going forward than we had 3 years ago when I first took office. Here's where we save that money. Basically, what you just approved tonight, we're going to save $86 million in debt payments over the next 19 or 20 years. You approved the changes in the interest rate assumptions in the pension plan. That eliminates $67 million in pension deficits payments over the next 20 years. Remember that had been going up like $1.65 million a year on average. It had doubled in 6 years, the amount we had to pay on that. Now it's stopped, and you can see that in the budget. The last area we're working on, the third major financial problem that the city has, is operating expenses. 90% of our budget is salaries and benefits, and those were going up about 10 times the rate as our income was going up every year. So as we've negotiated since we started working on this with police and fire, we have the other two unions, one this year, one next year, and for years everybody's been getting 3%. Increases every year. We negotiated that down. The result with police and fire over the next about 20 years, that will save us $4.5 million in expenses. So if you add those three numbers up, that's what takes us to the 158 million that we're saving over about the next 20 years, 19 or 20 years. And again, we gave up over the next 20 years, we've given up $3 to $4 million a year from the water authority because they prepaid their lease, and we use that to pay down the debt and do some other things as well, which you've approved all that. But even if you deduct that from what I said, the 9 million, we're still $5-6 million ahead of every year where we were when we first started. And I appreciate all your help getting that done. Really do appreciate it. Last thing I just want to remind you about is that tomorrow's our 1 o'clock update from all heads of City of Erie departments. And many of you have been coming to that. I appreciate that. I encourage all of you to be there. I think it's a very worthwhile update on what's going on in Erie. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Mayor, could you take 1 second and can you address the Mirsky, Harkins, police and fire plan that they're throwing out? People have been asking me questions about it, and
when that became public, we hadn't been talked to about it at all. So,
ditto.
and it's probably we're not sure what the police and fire want yet, to be very honest, when we're talking with them. We had some other things of big concern we had to address, and that's all worked out well over this week here. But we really, if we do anything at all, it's probably at least 3 or 4 years out because it's going to cost a lot of money. And my number one question is, do we really need to do that? I know there's some interest in it, at least, particularly on the police side. Fire, most of the firefighters are not at City Hall. We have 6 offices, and most of them are out there already. Now, some of those need some work, no question about it. But there's no way we're going to put those firefighters in a central or a different location. So I think we're years away from doing anything because we got to study it, and when it's going to cost millions of dollars, we got to figure out how to pay for it once we know what we want to do. So we're a long way from doing anything in that area. Did I answer your question okay, Ed?
Yes, you did. Thank you. I didn't know if they're just giving us the land and having us do what we ever wanted to do, or I got a call from TV stations to talk about it, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about it, so I'm not going to try to fake it. So I figured they probably call you anyway. But I thank you very much for that.
Sure.
Okay, and in closing, I want to announce that we will have a study session with PennDOT on Thursday, May 6th at 5:30. They called and asked to come here and update us with their latest plans. Mr. Keys is the liaison to that group, so he'll have the reins to that meeting. And I think that's anything, unless, did I miss anybody? I hope I didn't. I think I do have everybody. So let's say good night, huh? Have a good one. Good.
City council.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
City council adjourns at 8.
Good night. Welcome home, young lady.
Thank you.
Ms. Allen, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Keys, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brzezinski.
Yes. All done.